Was there something you wrote that didn't end up in the book, or something that was really hard to relive, to rewrite?
There was a few things that, and I'll try and say this the right way, with some of the age group. There's a few things in the beginning, like I said, I have this happened to me, that I purposefully made it one line and said, there's a great story there, but I'm not writing that story because that'll be the headline. I'm not writing that story because someone will put that line in bold print, and that is not what this book is about. So I purposely held back on some certain things, and they're really good stories. But I knew, being in my position, being a celebrity, that would have been a headline, and it would have been the lead for a lot of the conversations. And I would have gotten tired of going, that's not what the book's about. You got to get past that point. That would have been, it was too page 6 news.
Yeah.
And so there were things I was conscious of. I was like, don't give them that. Even though it's a great story, hold that one back, because you don't want anyone leading with that, and that is what they'll lead with.
I was going to ask you about that, because there's something, I saw you on The View, and they tried to ask you a question, and you could tell that what they were trying to get was a soundbite that would either that would preemptively end the prospects of a political career before it started.
Yep.
And I that restraint, that ability to think, hey, instead of going off the cuff here, I'm gonna dodge this trap, which so often that's what people are after. They want a sort of a gotcha thing, or you know, in sports, like the reason people trash talk is they want you to overreact and get in trouble.
Yeah.
But there's something I think stoic about going, hey, I see what you're trying to do here. I'm not mad about it,
Right.
but I'm not going to fall for it either.
Well, I've done it long enough to not be mad about it.
Yeah.
Again, not to think it's unbelievable. I can't believe you asked that question. I'm always like, are there any questions off limits? I'm like, no, ask whatever you want.
Yeah.
I understand now I have the right to go, none of your business.
Yeah, next.
To any question.
Yeah.
And to trust that pregnant pause, though, when someone asks you a question, and I didn't even do it in that view. I did retort. I made up for it and recontextualized my position. But what's really cool is to just sit there and straight face them and go, and let them get uncomfortable in the silence, and let someone else bring up, and by the way, and then just go, he just stared at me. He wasn't angry. He just breathed. He just sat there and but you get the silence. We all get a little uncomfortable in the silence, so you want to fill it. And I did fill it, you know. But what would have really been cool, which I've done a few times, is just sit there and go.
When we live in a world now of social media where people aren't even asking you to weigh in, people are just unsolicitedly stepping in it. You know, we just wake up and go, what's my hot take on this culture war issue that no one asked you about? And then 8 years later, you're in trouble for it or regret it or what. There's very few things that I have said while I'm upset that I'm like later, I'm so glad I weighed in on that.
Well, there's also today with social media, if somebody speaks up on something and it takes an opinion on one side in a culture war or something or political, if the tribe that you're around all jump on that bandwagon and you do not comment, you're obviously
your silence
condemning. Your silence means you believe the other or you disagree, and that's a large leap too far.
Totally.
And so then you get people, you know, tweeting stuff that you're like, I too condemn this. You're like, well, duh. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Did you need to did you need to say that because maybe we all thought you did think it was okay before it's condemned?
Right.
And so you kind of jumping into that game. And I've tried to, you know, I tried to refrain from some of these things that you go, there's a lot of context to this point that needs more than 40 characters. So let's not go on online and make a statement when tomorrow or 10 years from now or even longer, you're going to find out there's more to the story than you knew.
So my question was kind of hijacked by you, Ryan.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was going to ask what your secret was to dealing with difficult people, but I think you've already answered it.
Dealing with difficult people?
Yeah. Like, how do you not let people get under your skin?
Oh, okay. Well, we kind of touched it, but
I could go to my
look,
next
the
question.
first thing is, I mean, I write about it in green lights. The dumbest word in the dictionary. Unbelievable. Just quit being so like, oh, I can't believe they did that. Yeah, they did it. They do it all the time. So just when somebody does something that makes you go, just not being, it's like, oh, of course you did. It happens all the time. People are trying it all. So to not be surprised at all when that happens, I think is the first thing. And it makes it much less difficult. It's just not difficult if you don't let it be difficult. You measure, because I want to sit there and believe. I want to give more trust in a conversation, even with a stranger. I want to, but I want to be wise to understand that this conversation is not just between you and me right now, Ryan. It's right here, and it's going wherever whoever's recording it. It's like be conscious of those things. And you see people. Look, some of them are very good at baiting, but I've gotten pretty well seasoned in knowing. Just as I'm mid-sentence, if I finish this the way I want to finish it, that's going to be bold print. So I'm going to keep talking and make sure I don't stop at the sentence period at the end so I can fill this out so they can't edit this down. And now I've made context and saved my backside. Okay. And so to be apparent, to understand or aware of that when you speak, sometimes it hits me in the middle of a sentence and I can tell, ooh, that's going to be in bold print. Or I'll finish and I'll go, just want to go on the record.
Yeah.
Please don't print that unless you print what I'm about to say now, which is the other side of that story, which I do back both together. But that alone, please don't burn me on that. And the press has been pretty good with me so far with that.
Yeah, really thinking about how the words you're going to say are going to be used or how they're going to be heard. I remember the first big profile of me in my work. There was a New York Times profile, and she was asking me like, how do we know you're not writing about ancient philosophy to make money? Which I thought was a funny question. And I said, if you're shameless enough, you could sell anything to make money. And then I paused and I said, but why would I choose an obscure school of ancient philosophy if that's what I was, after? I was like, there's better things. I was like, there's cryptocurrencies and drugs and, there's other things you could do. But of course, none of that, only the first part of the quote is there. Right. And so really thinking about how I like your idea of just, I'm not gonna pause to allow this sentence
don't
to
give
come
them the edit
to
point.
Yeah.
Don't give them the edit point.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? And then you will, many times I'll see things that are printed and I'll go, no, watch the video.
Yeah.
Because you didn't get my jest or my context or that I led with, that's actually what I heard from someone else or or you didn't get the setup of the joke wasn't there.
Yes.
So if you watch the video, you can usually see, I see what they were at, or they weren't finished with their sentence.
Sure. To go to your point about difficult people, actually, the Marcus Aurelius quote about how the obstacle is the way, he's not talking about natural disasters or storms or traffic. There's some ellipses in that quote. He's talking about difficult people. And he's saying that at the very least, difficult people are an opportunity for you to practice being a good person, or to practice restraint, or to practice forgiveness, or to practice any number of the opportunities that they present you with their obnoxiousness or difficulty or rudeness.
And oftentimes they're there to remind us of how we don't want to be.
Yes, totally.